Yesterday we talked about the third great reviewing, Mahaprajapana. Today we shall go on to the next one, namely the fourth great reviewing, which is Mahaprajapana. As regards monks, there are things to be considered as results offences, known as apatti, and there are also offences for lay people. And in terms of these offences for monks, there are three groups. There are a group of offences which cannot be rehabilitated, which are difficult to be rehabilitated, which can be rehabilitated to some extent, and which can be rehabilitated. In brief, there are 237 rules of conduct for monks, in brief, and in detail 90,000 million rules for monks in detail. As for lay people, there are also offences which are difficult to be rehabilitated and which can be rehabilitated, things which are committed normally. And as for Sarabhana, he or she would not commit offence which cannot be rehabilitated. Only things which are committed are those which can be rehabilitated or redressed. Those which are committed without purposely wishing to do it or unintentionally, and there are such offences for this Sarabhana as well. And the Buddha preached like this: as for the fourth great reviewing, the Aryan monk or lady, Sarabhana, considers thus: one who possesses Aryan view will possess or will follow the usual way of the Dhamma, and I also am possessed with such Aryan view. This expression called Daithi Sampana, that is Aryan view. The Sarabhana is endowed with this Aryan view, and this is Aryan view. By being possessed of the Aryan view, one is possessing the usual view of the Dhamma. Sarabhana is endowed with the usual way of the Dhamma. This is how he or she is endowed with the usual way of the Dhamma. There are things which can be offences which are committed, or they can be rehabilitated or redressed, because they are committed without intention to commit. How is such things? For instance, the monk is not supposed to sleep in one under the same roof with a human being or even a samanera for 3 nights, and this has been explained in the commentaries that such offence can be committed, but it is committed as unintentionally, without any purposely wishing to commit it. And as has been given in these verses of protection in Pali, Parita Pali, that if a monk who has become a Sarabhana has committed an offence without any intention, then the monk would go and confess with another monk one's mistakes, one's offences, and then rehabilitate or redress as fast as one can. In this text is given this comparison with a kid, an infant who is able to lie on its back, and as the kid accidentally touches a live coal or something hot, it would feel very hot with its feet or hands, and at once it will withdraw its hand or foot as quickly as possible, Because the body is very sensitive and tender, so it withdraws quickly. This is a very good comparison to this offense, apatti, committed by a monk. This monk would go and confess at once and would promise or undertake to restrain one's behavior in future. Just as the kid would withdraw his foot or hand at once when it feels hot, when it's about to touch a live coal or something hot, so too with the monk who has become Sotapanna, as soon as one realizes one has made a mistake or offense, apatti, the monk would go and rehabilitate or redress his offense and would restrain one's behavior in future. Such is how Sotapanna is possessed of the usual way of the Dhamma. That is, as soon as the monk has committed this offense, he or she will go and confess it at once. As for lay people, man or woman, he or she will not commit any wrongdoing by body, speech or mind, which can pull you down to the apaya, states of loss, or he or she will not commit any wrongdoing which are apaya related. It means that they are petty offences. He or she may be committing petty offences which are not related to states of loss. And the Sotapanna would not commit the serious offences such as killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, lying, and so on, which are related to states of loss. So, as for monks or lady, such is the usual way of the Dhamma. That is, as has been discussed before, that when one becomes a Sotapanna, one will be able to overcome the internal enemies, or enemy within, which are dangerous ones, or committing the 5 offences. So, otherwise, they are very dangerous. And because he or she has subdued or overcome these enemies, he or she is free from harm, he or she becomes secure, becomes safe. Such is the special quality of Sotapanna. Because Sotapanna is not totally free from the gross form of greed and hatred, he or she may be still committing these petty offences, even up to the stage of the second Sugamandin path, that is Sagaragami, Mega. So both these Sotapanna and Sagaragami can possess this Kama Raga, sensual lust, because he or she is not totally free from the gross forms of greed. And also neither will she be totally free from anger or ill will when it comes to undesirable objects, undesirable things. But he or she will not fall into the states of loss, will be able to control him or herself. He or she will not go out of control in order to fall into the states of loss. So as for the Sotapanna, he or she may be raising a family, get married and raise children, but although he or she is not committing deeds, gross forms of greed, hatred, and because he or she still possesses these lobha dosa in his or her own right. However, there will be no transgressive actions like the ordinary beings, Purujanas. So, as for Sotapanna, he or she is not free from Kama Raga, sensual lust, but not to the extreme extent of this sensual lust. It is compared in the text that he or she is not free from sensual lust, but still committing some deeds which are related to sensual lust, and it is compared to one going to a toilet one goes to the toilet unavoidably to relieve oneself. And once one has relieved oneself, one is okay, and one is able to live comfortably. Such has been compared in the text. So such is the difference between Sarabhana and ordinary being. There's no transgressive deeds regarding this karma, such as committing sexual misconduct with other spouses. Now, if one has undertaken this practice, one will be relieved from this kamisu michachara, and there will be no AIDS or no future resultants when one suffers from AIDS and one behaves neither like a man or a woman in future existences as a result of his transgressive action on sexual relations. If one has made a mistake, one confesses with one's companions in holy life, and during the Buddha's time, one goes to the Buddha and confessed, and vowed to restrain oneself so as not to commit such mistakes in future. So this is quite a desirable behavior. Such is the usual way of the Dhamma as for the Sarabhana, and one considers Sarabhana considers in this way. So because it is necessary, some people would be hypocritical, that they're pretending not to have any force, or one may pretend to possess something which one does not actually possess. So as for Sarabhana, it is not so. Once one has committed a mistake, one would at once go to a wise companion in the holy life and confesses, or what is known as mutual confession, without any responsibility, without any problem, without any delay. Such is the desirable behavior in the case of Sarabhana, which is honesty or sincerity. And if one has not undertaken the practice like this, then one will not be so straightforward or sincere. One may be pretending to possess what one actually doesn't possess. So with the practice of Satipatthana, one becomes sincere in such cases. In this way, when one has become a Sarabhana, one considers all the views. Thus, whether one is a monk or a lady, and one comes to a decision like this, that Ariyas are fulfilled, endowed with this view, that is the way of the Dhamma, such as confessing his rehabilitable offences which one has committed, and this is a sincere behavior. So Ariyas are fulfilled with that. So too, I am endowed with this usual way of the Dhamma. In this way, one considers or reviews, which is a very positive sign. In this connection, the late Venerable Master Sayadaw has composed what is known as Niyama, a fixed law of aphorism, as regards the consideration of the fourth great reviewing, which I have tried my best to compose, to translate it, and it runs thus. Offences may still be committed, that can be rehabilitated, yet are confessed and restrained in future. Such is the fourth reviewing by the noble and pure. And when we think about it, and this, when we try to analyze this kind of consideration or reviewing, it goes to say that only it is concerned with the petty offences, minor offences which can be rehabilitated, and one is not just covering it up, and instead one goes at once to a wise companion in holy life and perform what is known as mutual confession and promise to guard oneself in future. Such is the difference between Ariya and the ordinary folk. As for ordinary Puthujjana, monk or lay person, man or woman, he or she may be committing without controlling these offences which cannot be rehabilitated, that is serious offences, major offences. And one will not go to when one is pointed out by the wise companion in holy life as regards the mistakes one has committed, one does not realize that they are the offences, and one would think that one is not guilty, one is innocent, and even if one knows that one has committed an offence, one will not perform what is known as mutual confession to rehabilitate the offence, and will not guard oneself not to commit such mistakes in future. Moreover, as for Sotapanna, he or she is not totally free from sensual lust, kama raga. So though he or she may be enjoying this sensual lust, he or she knows that such things are not totally free from offense. Such things are not totally free from unwholesomeness, and he or she realizes that these things are unwholesome with sincerity. So he or she knows akusala as akusala, unwholesomeness as unwholesomeness. He or she is only enjoying this knowingly, that they are unwholesome, like one, as we have discussed, going to the toilet to relieve oneself unavoidably, knowing that it is something unavoidable, but one has got to do it, and here the Sotapanna knows this as akusala. And as for Puthujjana, it is not so. As for ordinary being, it is not so. Although he or she knows that this is, he or she may not know in the first place this is unwholesome. He or she may even think that this is an usual way of the Dhamma, a usual way of life, usual way of the world, something which is unavoidable, which is very common to everybody. Everybody is doing it, so why not I? So he or she may be arguing in this way. And not only that, some people are encouraging to enjoy sensual lust without even making any effort to restrain these behaviors, without any effort to control. There's no effort to overcome it, no effort to reduce these things, and even commit things which don't belong to you, like these sex cases, which don't belong to you, without any effort to control it. As for Sotapanna, it's not so. He or she knows that it is unavoidably doing it, but the offense, he or she knows offense as offense, and he or she is enjoying unavoidably, which is not so in the case of the ordinary being. But the ordinary being is stupid in this case, being clouded by what is known as moha, delusion, not knowing the truth. And one does not know this is an offense. One may think this is not an offense, this is innocence. So this is kind of argument which the ordinary being will give, and even he or she would go to the extent of committing transgressive actions. So much for the fourth great reviewing Vipassana. In the realm of this Buddha's teaching, Buddha's Sasana, monks have two duties, namely the duty to learn scriptures or teach scriptures, known as Khandha, and the practice of meditation, of insight meditation, Vipassana, known as Vipassana. So monks have two such responsibilities. And so one has got to be involved in one of these two responsibilities, if not both. Learning, especially learning the scriptures for the purpose of liberation. if one is not able to practice even Vipassana, one should be fulfilled with a moral virtue, sila. Without moral virtue, if one is involved in learning of scriptures, then it will not be so natural or reasonable. So one should be grounded in moral virtue when one is taking up the duty of learning of scriptures. The Buddha has not praised those monks who are involved in the learning of scriptures without the practice of sila. And if one has learned the scriptures but not as yet undertaken the practice of meditation, then also it will not be fully fulfilled. That means one will be still lacking in this kind of responsibility. So if one is lacking in both responsibilities, then one is failing in one's duties as a monk. One becomes what is known as idle worker, although one is on the payroll. Payroll in the sense that one is receiving or utilizing the requisites offered by the offerers, donors. And there have been many such persons in the Buddha Sasana who are just by name monks. Then one becomes, if one is not shouldering this kind of responsibility, then one becomes a surplus, like a surplus employee, which is surplus employee gives a heavy responsibility on the sadhana. It's a heavy burden on the sadhana. If it's surplus, if it's a heavy burden, then it will be of no use. Although one is receiving these requisites, it will be just like an idle worker who is still on the payroll, receiving wages, but not doing any work. So this, when we are talking about this great reviewing, such monks this is a food for thought for the monks when we are talking about this great reviewing. So one should be able to shoulder these responsibilities so that one will not be irresponsible as a monk in both these responsibilities, Kata Dura and Vipassana Dura. So one should understand that one should be in real service in the Buddha Sasana as a monk. And in this way, when one is doing this Kata Dura, that is the responsibility of learning scriptures, one should do it with the right motive, not to become just a surplus idle worker receiving wages in terms of the full requisites from the donors. One should be a meaningful service in the Buddha Sasana. In the Buddha Sasana there are these three trainings, namely the training of moral virtue, Sila, Sikha, the training of Samadhi, concentration training, the training of Panya, Sikha. And as for the first one, the training of morality, Sila, Sikha. The monks are to not to commit things which are prohibited, not to commit by body and speech, not to commit physical and verbal wrongdoing, abstain. As much as they abstain, they are said to be purifying their physical and verbal behavior so that they become gentle and purified, cultured and amiable, will be free from suffering. So in this way, if the monks are able to be grounded in moral virtue, they are said to be real monks, a monkish monk, we call it. And basically, they are a real monk. They can be called a monk. And they are in the service of the monk. And one step further than that, if one as a monk is able to cultivate their mind, and this is Samadhi Sekha, the training of concentration, or just cultivating one's mind with any of the methods of samatha and methods of calm or tranquility. If one is able to practice that, one is tantamount to saying cultivating the mind. Or if one is practicing Satipatthana like you are doing, guarding the mind with vigilant mindfulness of every arising, paying attention to the body, noting whatever arises continuously, then or making an effort to note. Then with the application of exertion, you are not allowing defilements to enter the stream of consciousness. By this way you are overcoming them, opening the way to wholesomeness and closing the path to unwholesomeness. Then you are said to be serving the sasana by way of samadhi bhavana. In this way, and going one step further to practice the panya wisdom training, panya sekha, beginning with the cultivation of mind and body, and cultivating insight knowledge, eradicating the latent tendencies of defilements. If one is at least has become realize the first supermundane part of Sarapana, then one will be free from the states of loss, from falling into the states of loss. Thus will be able to be free from these defilements such as wrong view, personality view, skeptical doubt, and clinging to rites and rituals, and be free from the gross types, forms of greed and hatred which are related to the states of loss. As you are able to practice the panya sekha, wisdom training, as much as you are fulfilled with it, then you are said to be practicing the three trainings: sila sekha, samadhi sekha, panya sekha, morality, concentration and wisdom, which is known as three types of training or teaching, sasana. So that as much as one is grounded in this, one is said to have become the genuine, one is very good at genuine service in the Buddha Sasana. If not, you are not in the service. You are considered like an idle, surplus worker who is still on the payroll, receiving wages, receiving requisites from the donors. And so as not to be like this, one should undertake three trainings, and in this way you are following the Buddha's teaching. So as to not to fall in your responsibilities, to fail in your responsibilities, one should be able to practice that. As much as you do that, you are supporting sasana, so that the Buddha's sasana will endure for a long time. As long as this culture is practiced, this culture will not go into extinction. And as monks who are in the front line of Buddha Sasana, this is very important to practice, at least to realize the first supramundane path. That's all for today.